Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. Today, we have the privilege of having Rebecca, who is going to talk to us about her experience on Virgin in a Rockstar suite. So, Rebecca, go ahead, introduce yourself, tell the listeners all about you.
Hi, Crystal. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is such a cool niche topic. When I saw you were interested in this, I was like, I've got to be on that podcast and talk about this amazing experience we just had. So, my name is Rebecca. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. My husband and I went on a Carnival Elation cruise for our initial honeymoon in 2004 in like an interior suite, and that's where we started. And so we've kind of climbed the cruise ladder all the way to our 20th wedding anniversary back in January, which is when we did the Virgin cruise on the Rockstar suite. So that's my cruising life. In my other life, I am a rehabilitation physician working with patients with brain injury. I've got 3 kids and 3 dogs, and I have a podcast that delves into all of the topics around supporting aging parents and all of the drama around that. So that is pretty much my life right now.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I love the context too about like where you started, which is so important because, a lot of the people I think that listen to this podcast aren't necessarily luxury cruisers, right? I want to make it kind of like lifestyles of the rich and famous or, where we just love to live vicariously through other people to hear about what those experiences are. And so to know, like, I readily admit, like, I don't travel. And actually, most of my cruises are not in high end suites. They're just on, mainstream or premium cruise lines on maybe a interior or balcony stateroom, but I love talking about luxury cruising. It's just fun to dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this was a 20th anniversary cruise. Is that
Yes.
why you chose to go for the Rockstar Suite?
We got caught up. I don't know how closely you follow Virgin, but we were supposed to be on the Brilliance of the Seas, which was going to be, we were going to be on their fourth voyage ever. And we had booked that, and that was really the pinnacle for us. And right, I want to say a month or two before we were supposed to go, they pulled back the
Mhm.
cruise and said that the ship wasn't ready. And, you get that email and then there's this
Yeah.
rapid calling trying to get on another I don't know. So for a while we were kind of out in nowhereville, but yes, it was in January and we knew we weren't going to take our kids. That was the biggest deciding factor. And we thought, well, if we're not going to take our kids, there's no way we're going on like Royal Caribbean or
Yeah.
something like that. And we really do enjoy celebrity cruises. That's always been sort of our adult experience. But my husband said he was heavily targeted online through Virgin ads. And so he kept telling me, Virgin really wants us to go on a Virgin cruise. And so that kind of is how it came up. And it just aligned well with our schedules. And I was really, they had a little bit different itinerary, which I felt like was better than some of the kind of traditional Caribbean ports we had been to. So we definitely booked it. As far as booking the Rockstar Suite, really, because we were in a rebooking situation, I'm not sure why, it didn't end up being that much more expensive than a regular balcony room, and I know that there's just some weird situations where that happens, but I chose it because of the size. I get a little claustrophobic in the 200 square foot rooms, and,
Yeah.
I really like some of the way that the room was arranged. I like the bathroom, I like the larger balcony, and then, of course, it came with some other amenities because it was a Rockstar suite, but, it ended up delivering and more than that, than what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, I think just circling back to the cost, I think that's really important, especially when you choose if people want to have a sweet experience, being flexible on when you travel, because you said it was January, so it's
Yeah,
probably
the
after
dead
the New
time,
Year.
like January 10th is our wedding anniversary, so
Yeah, like,
perfect.
so of course, because everyone has just finished traveling for all of the holidays and they're back to work and nobody is traveling. And so that does tend to be across the board, like that in January tends to be a really inexpensive time to cruise. By February, people are like, "Oh no, we need our February vacation to get away from the cold." But
Right.
January, I feel like is that sweet spot where if you're looking for a bargain, that is the time to look.
And you know how I looked for a bargain? When I compared it to the week before, which was around New Year's, and it was like, oh, less than half the cost, and so I was like, "Oh, we're getting a deal," because clearly the same room the week before was much more expensive. So you have to kind of be choosy to feel good about the value. You can look at reference within the cruise itself or even a couple weeks before or after to zone in.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So what were some of the other amenities that you got, um, in the Rockstar Suite?
So I know this sounds kind of silly, but we had a record player in there, and I thought that was kind of gimmicky when I read about it. And oh my goodness, it was awesome. And so we
Yeah.
had a concierge, I think they're called a
The
Rockstar
Rockstar
agent,
agent?
and she would come to our room twice a day. What do you guys need? And we would say, I like this kind of music. And then she would bring those records and kind of exchange the old records. And it just created this really beautiful sound within the room. It kind of filled the room up. And
Yeah.
they had really great music selection. And I've never had that experience on a cruise. Like, of course, you could like listen to music on your phone, but I've never brought like a speaker system or something on a cruise before,
Yeah.
nor would anybody pack that. We already packed up, so tight. And so that just made it feel very luxurious. It made it feel very custom. And then there was even a part on the ship where you could go and like check out records and things like that. So
Yeah.
again, it was like a minor thing that they added, but I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. Well, that is what luxury is, right? It's just that next step above that is really hard to put your finger on. But when you experience it, you're like, this is nice. This
Right.
just is that missing touch that I didn't even realize I was missing.
If I could talk a little bit more about the Rockstar agent, I am a mom of 3, and so every time we travel, I am always the executive manager of every single, meal and activity, and even on a cruise, you try to reduce some of that. I'm still managing a bunch of people, and I felt like somebody was managing me a little bit. She was reminding me about the reservations that we had
Yeah.
that night and checking on if we needed extra towels and so just that experience, I felt like it was a reverse of what I was used to, and it did help put me at ease that I knew somebody else was, if we were wanting to go to a certain show and there weren't any tickets, and she was gonna go look for them, and bring back the in the evening,
Yeah.
the next show we wanted to go to. Or there was a couple of times where we wanted a different reservation because you talk to somebody on the ship and they say, go to this restaurant, not that one, or whatever. And so then you get the FOMO and you're like, well, now we have to go to this restaurant. And so she was very reachable and excellent. And so that was the first time I had an experience where I felt like there was somebody who was supporting my trip versus me supporting
Yeah.
everybody else's trip.
Yeah, that is really nice. That's really nice. Clarify something because you had said there were tickets for a show that she would bring you. Are there physical tickets for
No, I'm
shows?
sorry. I mean, like, they're online, but they book up very quickly, and that's with all cruise lines. And what we didn't realize is there's like a VIP period where you're supposed to go online, and our lives are so crazy, and that
Yeah.
happened around the holidays that like I think we missed everything. And so even though we had invested this, money in this trip, we weren't present enough to really follow all the reservations. But on it, having that extra level of Rockstar, it actually worked out just fine. We got all the reservations we wanted. We
Yeah.
went to all the shows we wanted to go to. It did help that there were only 2 of us. I imagine if there were 6 of us, that might have been more challenging, but I didn't leave there feeling like we had missed anything at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that is one of the benefits of the Rockstar Agent. I did an episode that went over sort of like the suite experience in all of the premium lines, and I put Virgin into that premium line category. And I remember that because there are some really, not just with Virgin, but with all the lines, there are some experiences that just sell out. Like I remember with Virgin was like the drag brunch, and there's a particular show that if you are not on it, and definitely some like if there's any reservations at restaurants, if you are not on it, it's almost like Disney. You have to be on it or you're not going to get it. But your Rockstar agent, that is an added bonus. Like I'm not even worried about it. Right?
Right. The other
That's
thing I liked
beautiful.
about the room, was the way it was situated. So the bed, kind of like where your feet were facing towards the windows, which was looking outside. And one of the reasons I don't like the traditional 200 square foot cabins is, you only got about what 7 inches it feels like between the end of your bed and the
Yeah.
the wall, and
Yeah.
like you're kind of scooting around and trying not to hit the bed, and it just felt so I don't know, generous or luxurious when the bed wasn't the biggest thing in the room. I mean, there was places to walk and put your stuff and
Oh,
the
yeah.
lounge, area, and like a little desk there. And even the way the TV was situated, you could either look at the TV or you could look out over the water. They were kind of in the same
Nice.
general
Yeah.
position. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was also a nice touch. I had never stayed in a room that had been situated that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a good point too, where, a lot of standard rooms, most standard rooms, it's basically, if you want to move, you always have to like sort of shimmy yourself between the bed and the dresser, and maybe there's like one little square spot by the chair where you can stand up and there's not a lot of stuff around you. But yeah, space is definitely at a premium in most staterooms. And then you get into a suite level and you can like walk around and breathe and you don't feel like you're always tripping over furniture.
Right, right, and that experience started, like, from, embarkation, so the day we got there, there's 2 lines, there's the, Rockstar line and then everybody else, and so you do get that nice feeling like you're skipping the line. I'm not sure we got on that much sooner than anybody else, but still, I mean, we flew all the way to Miami to take this cruise from Texas, and so it was nice to have that
Yeah.
little extra part of it, 'cause the line for embarkation outside of if you weren't in Rockstar, was outside. And so it was Miami, so it wasn't particularly cold or hot at that time, but still, it was just the idea that they gave you a cold drink and a place to sit, and there were people walking around keeping you informed about when you were going to get on. And
Yeah.
I know sometimes when I go on other cruises, it feels like a cattle call, and you don't know what's going on or when you're gonna what's around the next corner, and that was a totally different experience.
Was there somebody, like, escorting you, or it's just basically like, "Okay, you're checked in, sit here, let me get you some water or some snacks," and like, "Oh, we're gonna start boarding in, 15 minutes," or did the Rockstar agent come and get you? How did that work?
So they had an area that was designated for rock stars, and it had a lot of your, like juices and cold water, and I think maybe some champagne or something. And what was nice is they didn't want anybody to actually stand in line. There was places to sit all over this lounge area, and they were intentional about telling us when we were going to move, so nobody just started getting in line randomly. Because
Mhm.
people would just start lining up just because of human nature. One person stands behind
Yeah.
somebody else, and then 50 people go stand
Yeah.
behind them. And so they intentionally had people walking around saying 10 more minutes until we're going to go to this entrance, but please sit down, please relax, please, take another drink or something. And we didn't actually, I don't think we met the agent until we got to the room. And then she came to
Mhm.
our room and introduced herself. And that was how we saw her.
Yeah, nice. So other than the room, any other, like, what is there I can't remember on Virgin, is there a suite only, restaurant? I know there's, like, Richard's Rooftop, that's just for suite guests, but is there a restaurant?
No, at least not that we were aware of. There was, I mean, there's another level higher. I think it's the Mega Rockstar where and more alcohol is included because in the Rockstar we had our own mini bar there, which was, and we got to pick what kind of alcohol was included there. But no, we just ate at the um, regular restaurants, and that was excellent in and of itself. So, and if there was one, at least we didn't end up going there.
Yeah. Where did you go? What were the port stops on this cruise?
This ended up being a repositioning cruise because, like I said, we had to rebook it. So we started in Miami. We went to Nassau, which we had a terrible excursion experience. In fact, maybe I should talk about that. So, Virgin, for the first time, created an excursion. We were the first people to go on it from that particular cruise. It went terribly wrong,
Hmm.
and it was a total waste of a day. And we got back and told our Rockstar agent about the experience and had it refunded. So I felt like that was helpful because if you were not in the Rockstar status, most of those people went and stood in the customer service line to go complain about the terrible
Yeah.
excursion. And she came up, she said she'd already heard about it. She was sorry to hear that. She was working on it. And then she would give us an update, like I think the next day about what they were going to do about it. So
Nice.
that was Nassau. And then we went to Grand Turk, and then the Dominican Republic, and then we landed in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and then flew back from there.
Awesome. And so my next question about it was like, were there any sort of luxurious experiences around the excursions? But it sounds like the
No.
excursions not, but kind of the way a bad experience was handled was really
Yeah,
nice.
because if I knew for sure, I've been on enough cruises that if we had been on, I don't know, Royal Caribbean, just part of the other 5,000 people getting off the boat and having, various experiences, that it would have been really difficult to plead our case. And I don't know if it was just that the excursion was that bad or that, yeah, there was a lot of factors there. But the thing is, I didn't end up standing in a customer service line, which is a huge waste of, and nobody wants to be on a cruise like that and stand in line
Yeah.
and ask for money back. In fact, it was one of those points where it was inexpensive enough that you're like, "Am I even gonna go try to go get back my" I think it was, I don't know, $150 or something, and you just wanna relax and you wanna put the terrible experience behind you.
Yeah.
The nice thing that they said when they refunded it was, "We have found this excursion to be below our expectations for a Virgin Cruise excursion, and we appreciate your feedback, and we will never use this vendor again." And so I thought, "Okay, well, at least nobody else will be subjected to this
Yeah.
on the next cruise." So that was nice too. It wasn't just a, "Stop complaining, here's your money back." It was actually like, "No, you're," vociferous complaints, not just me. I didn't even have to tell the Rockstar agent anything. She had already apparently heard it from whoever got back on the ship first. Yeah, so they sent us a letter and they said, "Never again, and we're sorry, and we're refunding your money."
Nice. And that just, that just talks about the level of, customer service for Virgin in general. I mean, I feel like all cruise lines really focus on customer service. But from what I've heard about Virgin, they're really trying to be, industry leaders in a lot of different ways. And it sounds like even customer service.
Absolutely, yeah. That made it for me because honestly, that it was our first stop, and I thought for sure, we're gonna get off and have this great day. Even from the beginning, it was mishandled. It was not enough people to check people in. It was just disorganized, and I thought this can't be right because it was such a contrast from the ship I had just gotten off, where everything seemed organized and kind of dialed in, and then we get off the ship and it was chaotic and difficult to navigate. So I was really happy that they recognized that that was a decrement from the boat itself, and yeah,
Yeah.
but everything else after that was great.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else with regards to other experiences, whether it was in the spa or around the ship that you found to be particularly luxurious?
My husband and I talked about this, and I'm not sure we anticipated how much we would appreciate not having kids on the boat. And because we're the ones that bring kids on boats, even celebrity boats, and having them not running around or just the sound. I have 3 kids, but just
We love our kids and also
and we did go on another cruise about 6 months later with the kids, but, um, anyway, so not having the kids running around was a big deal. I thought that the entertainment, was different and interesting and intriguing. It was not just kind of these big kind of Vegas style productions
yeah,
and more intimate. So anytime you went to any of the entertainment, there was maybe 100 or 200 people there, not 1,000 people there, right? Those
yeah,
huge, big, auditoriums and so forth. We really liked the idea of picking where we ate every night and then doing something different each night. And the way that the buffets were done, I we really appreciated that too. So there was plenty of variety, and it was clean. Like people were serving you food on plates. Nobody was grabbing the tongs and
yeah,
going that route. We really liked the other people on the boat. It was really, really diverse and fun, and the energy was fun, and the pajama party and just the vibes were very relaxing. And we both said that was the most relaxed we had been in a while. We just weren't worried about again tracking our kids down or where are we going to eat tonight. We just felt I don't know, pampered is I don't know if that's the
yeah,
right word, but
yeah,
it was great. It
yeah.
was hard to leave. It was really hard to leave.
To get back to reality,
Yes.
right? Yeah, like the luxury of being able to take some time for yourself and have somebody to be able to watch your kids. I mean, I'm assuming somebody was watching. I mean, it just sort
We
of
hope
like,
so. We thought so, yeah.
you leave the house and be like, "Good luck, kids. Bye."
Yeah, and we
Right?
I mean, part of it because it was our 20th, and since we had started out on the Carnival Elation, we were like, "What a cool transition." But I will say, if anybody's listening, our favorite cruise was still that first one because it was such an incredible experience for 2 college kids who had, like, no money and no
Yeah.
expectations, and the very first night we ate dinner, we sat there waiting for the bill because we didn't even know anything about cruising, and they finally
Wow.
had to come tell us to leave, and my husband's like, "I should have eaten more. I didn't realize it was included," and so we just go back to these novel experiences. So I think what happens in cruising is you crave novel experiences,
Yes.
and that's what Virgin really offered, to us was a different way of thinking about it and, a different level of, cruising, and that so it really delivered in that way.
Yeah, I love that. So let me ask you, stepping away from this particular cruise, how do you define luxury?
I think of it, in 2 ways. I think of it one as the space itself. I'm very fixated on the space and how it flows and the size of the space. So the very first, what I would call upgraded cruise we did was an owner suite on Liberty of the Seas, and it was one of those giant rooms that had a living room and a kitchen, and it just didn't feel like the cruises that I had known before, and I just felt like I could relax and be myself. So to me, the space is probably the first thing I think about. The second would be the amenities. So, for instance, we were just on the Harmony of the Seas, and that suite restaurant was incredible. That was our
Coastal
favorite
Kitchen,
place to be. Yeah, the Coastal Kitchen was
my
like
favorite Royal
our
Caribbean
favorite
restaurant.
place to be, and I wish Virgin had that. Like,
Yeah,
we went on the on Royal Caribbean, we thought, "Well, where was Coastal Kitchen on Virgin?" But,
yeah,
that was an amazing place to just, eat and drink and talk, and so I think the spaces are big, the service is obviously really big. Um, I think the little things like, including internet or including drinks, which kinda offset the cost a little bit, I
mhm,
do like that, but for me, it's those things. I mean, tertiary to that would be maybe the stops and, higher caliber excursion stops, that type of thing. But to me, it has to start with the space. The space has to fit. And we were going to book a cruise, and they were advertising this room as upgraded, luxury, and it was 199 square feet.
mm,
And I
yeah,
know it was a suite class, but I kept looking at it and I'm like, this isn't, they included all these other things, and I thought that's just not. I
that
don't know.
doesn't
That's
do
not
it.
what I'm looking for. So
Yeah. Yeah, your space, like, when you go back to your stateroom, even though people say, like, "Oh, on a cruise ship, I never spend any time in the stateroom." Well, maybe that's because it's a 100 square foot box, like,
right.
the rooms that I've had, I've had a couple of staterooms where and you kinda mentioned this too, where the bed faces the balcony or the window, so you lay in bed. A lot of cruise lines in those little boxes, you're, like, looking at the TV, right, or the dresser. But to be able to, like, wake up in the morning and to see the ocean in front of you, I mean, that's just glorious to me.
So we just did that in June. That was the Crown Suite on Harmony of the Seas. That's the two-story suite on Royal Caribbean. And when you go upstairs and you open those curtains and you look out on the blue water, I mean, it took my breath away. And that's
Yeah.
talking about the novelty, right? So I had
Yeah.
seen a lot of views from different, cabins, and this was stunning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it was almost humbling to see that much. I mean, the ocean and be able to have it so readily available. You just,
Yeah.
stare
The
at it. It was
vastness.
really everybody that walked in that room, because it was a big family trip, was like, "These are incredible windows, looking out." So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and that was on Caribbean. So props to them for having such a cool room.
Yeah. Amazing. Do you have any luxury cruises booked?
We are going on an MSC cruise. MSC is actually coming to Texas for the first time ever
I heard
next
about that.
year, in
Yeah.
November of next year, and this will be our second MSC cruise, and that's actually the one I was just speaking about, where they were promoting some of these rooms as luxury, but really it was just a different
Yeah.
set of amenities.
Yeah.
So for that one, we ended up just getting a couple of balconies that were
Mhm.
together. So we had that booked. I don't know that I call that luxury, because that was one of those where the cost difference and then the size difference was not there for me.
Yeah.
Especially when you bring kids, and we're going to get two rooms anyway. So for us, it always feels like a suite when we book two
Connecting
next to each other.
staterooms. Yeah, you've got 2 bathrooms, you've got
Okay, two
more
bathrooms.
space.
And that has become an absolute non-negotiable for us with the three kids. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
twins that are 10 and then a 13-year-old daughter who monopolizes one bathroom the whole time. And so our non-negotiable now is we don't cruise unless there are two bathrooms assigned to our family. So
Yeah.
even those big, nice family rooms, if they only have one bathroom, like, I'm passing automatically.
Yeah. 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 Good to know. Any bucket list cruises?
And it sounds funny because we just said Virgin. I really want to do one of the Edge class on Celebrity, and we've had
Yeah.
multiple missed opportunities to do it, and they don't have really family friendly configurations. A lot of the rooms are, two people, or so we've kind of been bidding those out, if you will, but never found the right one. So it's on my bucket list,
I've
to
noticed
go on
that.
one of the Edge class.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. The Edge class and Celebrity in general doesn't have a ton of interconnecting rooms.
Right.
And we actually booked a transatlantic on Celebrity. And we took a deep breath and we're doing side by side.
Okay.
So not interconnecting, side by side. We'll see how it goes. Hoping
Right.
for the best. Because I really, really wanted this transatlantic.
The very first time I called Celebrity on one of the Edge cruises to get my family on board, they kept pitching I don't know, the highest level. They're like, "It's only 18,000 per person."
Yeah.
I'm just, like, laughing, like, "Okay, we're not I'm not that into it. We're not doing
Yeah.
18,000 per person." And they're like, "Well, ma'am, you're just gonna have to like we don't." You're right. They had very few connecting rooms. They were, and it was almost like they were like, I don't want to say anti-family, but very clearly meant to set up to try to discourage large families from coming and I get it. I totally get it. But I'm gonna win someday and get on one of the celebrity edge class ships. But
You and
MSC,
me
when it
both.
comes to your state, and we really enjoyed MSC. This is many, many years ago we went, and so it just made sense. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm
Yeah.
going for next year.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been awesome. We have run the gamut talking about, everything from luxury to family cruising, which I think is fantastic. So, if people want to find you, follow you, listen to your podcast, how can they do that?
Sure. So my podcast is called Real Conversations About Aging Parents. So it's on all the podcast platforms. And then I have a website. It's not fancy, but it's called unsandwiched.com. And that's where I put some information about supporting life with aging parents and all the drama and all the sticky topics. I love that topic. I love talking about it and downloading that with people. So yeah, that's my hobby.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time, I wish you tons of luxury travel. Take care.